Great. All right. I'll go ahead and get started. So thanks everyone for joining in. So today's session is going to be about remotely connecting, configuring, and securing your servers with Azure Arc and PowerShell. And so this is going to be a PowerShell-oriented session where we're going to use that with Azure Arc and kind of show how you can use the two together. And so bear with me. I usually do similar demos, but with Portal only. But I know that this audience is a little bit allergic to that. So it's going to be a fun time, hopefully, for everyone. And we'll go ahead and get started. But first, big thank you to all the sponsors. This has been a great session, great conference, and learning a lot. And so thank you to the awesome sponsors. I don't know if anyone from the sponsors are here right now. Cool. So first, I want to give you guys this link. And folks, feel free to continue coming in. You can sign up here with this QR code for our Arc server forum. And so we have a lot of updates across what's going on in Azure Arc with all of our product development. We put this together into a monthly newsletter. And we also have a monthly community call that you're able to join in. And we try to keep the community call really focused on demos and just the latest preview opportunities. So it's a great way to get involved. And you have the ak.ms link too, if the QR code's not working for you, to sign up for that. A little bit about me. I'm a product manager on Azure Arc, specifically focused on the server offering, as well as our Windows Server licensing with that, and some of our GitOps capabilities around Flux and soon Argo as well. I'm based in New York. I enjoy volunteering, music, and running. And this is my email. Please use sparingly if there's any issues or you want to reach out about Azure Arc problems. All right. With that, I'll go ahead and get started on the kind of core of our session. And so first, I'm going to give an overview of Azure Arc, hopefully not put you to sleep. Then we'll go into the demo section, and then we'll share what's latest in terms of our roadmap and all of the capabilities that are coming up from the Arc server side, and we'll end with some time for Q&A. So, high-level overview of Azure Arc. Raise your hand if you're somewhat familiar with Arc. Okay, about half, most folks. So the core way to think about this is really, we want to make the Azure control plane extensible for non-Azure environments as well, right? We realize a lot of customers are running workloads, obviously, in their own data centers, and hybrid is a destination for a lot of our customers. Also, a lot of our customers are taking a multi-cloud strategy, right? You might have a mix of public cloud providers outside of Azure with AWS or GCP, Oracle infrastructure. And finally, you might have edge workloads running as well. So we see this very frequently with our customers. And what we want to make sure is all of the investments into the Azure resource management, into the Azure control plane, can be used across the board, across your different infra. So what does this mean to you from a server perspective, right? Here you see what Arc looks like in action, right? You see all of these servers and you're wondering, is it Windows? Is it Linux? Well, it's both. It's also your on-prem environments in multi-cloud. It's both, right? It's taking all of that estate and basically projecting it, just like you would have your Azure VMs show up in Azure Portal, be interactable with Azure CLI, with Azure PowerShell, be able to deploy extensions. All of those same capabilities we're bringing to your servers that are sitting outside of Azure, right? As we're investing in all of the management experiences for your Azure VMs, we want to make sure you have the same capabilities and experiences for your non-Azure VMs too. And so how can this be useful? Well, just off the bat, this is an inventory for you, right? So you can imagine, you can visualize this, right, as a global organization where you have a lot of different subsidiaries or private data centers. You can put it all together in sort of this visualization into this map of your assets anywhere. And so we're going to get there, but first we're going to talk about what's really powering this experience, right? And that's this product called Arc-enabled servers. And so Arc server, again, as I mentioned, works across Linux and Windows, VM and bare metal. It's domain agnostic. Right off the bat, you get that organizational inventory capability with VM extensions. It integrates into Azure Lighthouse as well, which is the sort of multi-tenant capability. And it comes in with Azure policies, security baseline, compliance, and integrates natively into Entra, right? From a RBAC perspective as well. So a lot you get right out of the gate with Arc servers. But how's it working under the hood? It's the connected machine agent, right? You're establishing a connection to Azure. You're projecting into Azure. So we have the agent. On every single Arc-enabled server, you have the lightweight connected machine agent. And it's basically three core components, right? It's the hybrid instance metadata service. So it's establishing a connection to Azure. It's sending heartbeats. So we're making sure there's connectivity. It's guest configuration or machine config. So how many of you are DSC users here? Nice. Good number of folks, right? So DSC, especially DSC v2, supported with this machine configuration capability, including Azure policy. So all of the sort of governance capabilities, and that's built right into the connected machine agent. So you don't have to enable guest management. That's part of Azure Arc. And the final piece is Extension Manager, right? So for monitoring with Azure Monitor Agent, you see that, security with ASC, etc. You get all of those extension services that you're interested in deploying and connecting with your Arc-enabled server as well. So together, those three core components, the hybrid instance metadata service, machine configuration, and extension manager, that's what makes up this connected machine agent. And that's what's on every server, establishing the connection to Azure and allowing to use Azure management capabilities on your Arc server. And again, we pay a lot of attention to how lightweight we can make this agent, and a lot of attention to also allowing customers to shut down any component of the agent, really configuring the CPU utilization cap, etc., for every subcomponent of the agent, right? We're really mindful that on-prem environments and especially edge environments where you're constrained, you have a lot of those control knobs and a lot of those flexibility. So what can you do with Arc, right? We describe Arc in our mind as the sort of ticket to the buffet of Azure management services, right? We have customers that are using Defender for Cloud really heavily, right? From security posture management perspective. We have infrastructure monitoring and logging with Azure Monitor. We have security information event management with Microsoft Sentinel. Governance with policy, you can do OS patching, and soon 3P app patching with Update Manager. You have the core configuration management capabilities, change tracking inventory for the software resources in your actual Arc server. So you have a whole host of Azure management services that are available today for your Azure VMs. And what we want to do is make sure you can access, pick and choose which ones you're investing in and extend that for your off Azure estate as well. So that way, all the investments you're making, all of the skilling, tooling, automation you've been developing on any one of these offers, you can extend that for your non-Azure estate as well. That's really our goal. And most customers using a few of these services together. And again, it's access to the buffet of services. We often get, do you have to use all of them? No. Do you have to eat everything at the buffet? You don't. Sometimes you want to, but you get to pick and choose, right? Which ones make sense for your environment and which ones you kind of have invested in. And again, want to reiterate, this works across on-prem and multi-cloud as well. And we do have pretty wide support coverage across Linux and Windows. One other quick thing to note is we do support IoT environments, Kubernetes and SQL Server as well with other offerings in the Arc portfolio, but today we're going to be focusing in on the server offer. All right. With that, if I have not put you to sleep in the last 10 minutes, we're going to go into the demo environment, and we're going to actually show this in action a little bit. So for the demo, I want to show really three core things. First, I'm going to be showing you how you can connect servers to Azure Arc by generating a sort of PowerShell script. We're going to be talking through the different onboarding connectivity options so you can learn about how you connect those servers to Arc. Once you've connected, I'm going to show that Arc server coming up in my Azure environment projected there. And then I'm going to show you the remote configuration capability with the run command, where you can run your PowerShell scripts remotely onto your Arc-enabled server directly from the Azure control plane. And finally, I'm going to be touching on Defender. So I'm going to be showing you how you can use Defender for Cloud with its cloud security posture management, security assessment capabilities, compliance over time in Azure Portal. And we're going to be seeing that sort of compliance results over time, potentially making some changes as well. So with that, I'm going to switch over to Azure Portal. And we're going to be trying to run Azure Portal on conference Wi-Fi, which is always a very, very fun experience. So here I am, logged in. I'll go ahead and open PowerShell. We'll make this a little bit bigger. It's going to request it. It's going to take a second here. Cool. So I'm going to minimize this just real quick. And first, I'm going to show you that connection piece, right? So how do you onboard a server to Azure Arc? Like I mentioned, the primary way our customers onboard to Arc is through our PowerShell script, right? So for your Windows servers, what you want to do here is to navigate it to Azure Arc. We're going to click on Add a Machine. And we have a host of options here. We're going to go with the single server option first. What we're going to do here is we're going to basically just generate a PowerShell script to onboard to Azure Arc. So the way it works is you specify where in Azure you want that resource to come up, right? So here I might want my demo environment. And let's say I'm going to do my compliance resource group, right? Perfect. I'm going to pick Windows, and then I'm going to pick a region. Let's say here we're in West Europe, so we'll do West Europe, right? Perfect. So you have our West Europe region. We have our Windows OS. It's going to land in this Northwind Compliance Resource Group in Arc Infra Demo. And you can change the subscription and resource group once you onboard your server to Arc. So that's super flexible. Next, I pick a connectivity method. Here I can use public endpoint. We also support proxy. So if you're, raise your hand if many of you are probably using proxy connectivity. That's preferred. And we also support private link. So if you want to keep all of the traffic that's establishing the connection between Azure and Azure Arc over a private express route, you have that option as well. Here, let's just get through the script. So we're going to use public endpoint. Next, you have the flexibility to tag the resource if you want to do that. That's pretty standard. And then the final step is you can basically download and run the script, right? And so, oops, what's going on here? Is that not downloading? Oops. Here. Let's just go straight to download and run script. Okay. Interesting. Here we go. Running final validation. Is it doing something strange here? Yes. Let's see what's going on. Okay. I'll try to be very quick again. Yeah, so at the end, it will generate typically, if you're successful, it will generate, and this is not the tricky part, a PowerShell script that you can then use to onboard your servers. So we're going to go ahead there. And we'll just go real quick. East-US, download and run script. Okay, perfect. So here you have the script, right? This PowerShell script. And basically what it's going to do is you're going to download the connected machine agent. In a high level, you're going to specify all of those things, a subscription, resource group, tenant, region, location, etc. And it's going to download the connected machine agent onto your server. And then it's going to specify where it's going to land. And it's going to connect that server and project that into the Azure control plane, right? So this is the PowerShell script. We also have a PowerShell module you can use in order to onboard. This is also supported with remote PowerShell, right? So you can remotely PowerShell into multiple servers if you want. And here I use the single server onboarding option. But if you want to do this at scale, right, using group policy, system center configuration manager, we typically have our customers generate a service principal, which is limited identity with just the connected machine agent onboarding role. I want to reiterate that, just the connected machine agent onboarding role. Do not give your service principal like general contributor access and then have that floating around. That's not a good security practice. We have the limited role for just onboarding servers to Arc over a specific window. And then you run that script to onboard that server to Arc, right? So that's the first step. That's connecting the server to Arc. So I've done that. Now let's actually see this in our environment. So I'm opening up Cloud Shell. Here we go. It's going to request that. Some service issues, latency, and timeout issues. Great. Just what we need here. So we're going to go ahead here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to import the AZ connected machine module, right? So this is what's being used for most of our Arc capabilities. So here I've imported the AZ connected machine module. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set my AZ context to the specific subscription. So you're seeing I was using the Arc enabled infra demo. So I'm going to go to that specific subscription. Awesome. So I've gotten there. Please don't copy this. All right. So now I'm in my subscription for the Arc enabled demo, right? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually see like what are the Arc server resources that I have here, right? And what's their current status? And so for that, what we're going to use is we're going to use the get AZ connected machine. See, it's coming up. All right. And then I'm going to do the resource group as Northwind Risk, right? So this is just one resource group where I know a lot of my servers, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click enter there. And here I see the status of all of my Arc-enabled servers that are in that resource. And again, these are all servers that are outside of Azure, that I've projected into the Azure control plane. I can see I have a mix of Windows and Linux. I have some that are unfortunately expired, some that are disconnected, some that are connected. So it's a pretty even mix. And I can see all of their provisioning state is successful, right? This is what's baked in by default. I can obviously configure this to get a more useful query or a more useful inventory. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that same thing, but this time I'm going to narrow in on one specific machine, right? This time I'm going to narrow in on that Tailwind SQL 3 instance, which I see is connected. And now I'm going to get more metadata for that specific instance because every Arc server, we're capturing some of that metadata and bringing it in to the Azure control plane. And so now I see that I have a bunch of different kind of interesting information about the different extensions that have been deployed for my Arc server. I can see its OS, Windows Server 2022. I see some of the licensing information, IP addresses. It's a volume GVLK licensing for Windows Server, etc., right? So I have all of this information, including like some of the provider types, core counts, etc. So I can use all of this with Azure Resource Graph too, if I want to start inventorying this, making reporting, etc. And so I'm just showing this at a single server level, but you can imagine how this is really useful from an automation perspective. So that's the connection piece, right? But we're going to go a step further, right? So that was the first step, connect. I promised you it's connect, configure, secure. So now we're going to try to configure. And so for configure, I want to showcase run command. How many folks are familiar with run command? Okay, a handful, right? So at a high level, you can think of run command as basically a more secure version of our custom script extension, right? And so what run command allows you to do is it allows you to run your scripts on your Arc-enabled servers remotely. And you can either supply the script directly here, like I'm going to showcase, or you're going to be able to actually upload those scripts to your blob storage URIs, and then you're going to be able to schedule them. You'll be able to sequence them as well, and you're going to get visibility into their status and their timing. And so this is available for your Azure VMs, but it's also available for your Arc servers. And so just to show this and give you an example of one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a new AZ connected machine run command, right? And so I have my resource group, Tailwind SQL 3, that one machine I was looking at, East US, and then we'll call it a testing run command, and we'll just do echo hello world, right? And so we're going to go ahead and create this run command, and we're going to run this. So it's going to give you very clear visibility into the progress, and this is just a sample, kind of innocuous script that we're running here. You can imagine you can use this for more complex scripts, for more complex troubleshooting scenarios as well. And I'm just using the sort of direct inline providing the script, but you can upload the script to your blob storage URI. So if you have more complex scenarios, that's really common. we see a lot of customers using run command for secure hardening scripts, for example, for applying baselines remotely, etc. So there's a lot of flexibility here. I'm just doing this to sort of show what a simple example might look like. And while this operation is running ever so slowly, I can show you a little bit about just where we have all of this documented. So you'll see in our Azure documentation, we clearly identify sort of all of this here. So we have our run command capabilities documented under connected machine. Let me try to open that up. Yeah, so get AZ connected machine run command. You can remove the run command. You can add the run command, sequence it, get its status, etc., etc. So by now, it's still running. Very complex script to be running, right? Echo hello world, usually quite fast in a typical environment. But yeah, because of this, you can imagine why I didn't want to show something more complex remotely. So that's going to run our command. But again, we can sequence this. We get visibility into the status for this. And what's coming up is we're actually going to introduce galleries, right? We have a lot of customers that have a bunch of scripts. You want to have a gallery view across your organization, and you want to have community scripts as well that are commonly used. So we're going to build that community experience as well, just like we have with our Azure native VMs. So it's continuing to check its operating status. And when this is going to finish running, hopefully successful, you'll get a kind of clear message. Once it's been created, you can obviously update the run command script as well. One question you might have is, this is very cool capability, but a very powerful capability. Yes, you can disable run command on your servers. It's opt-in only and requires a high level of permissioning, and it's tied to my Entra ID, right? So here we see that this is successfully executed, right? This run command, and we can see a lot more details about it. So you do have the flexibility to disable run command, but it's a really robust capability, right? Just by Arc enabling from Azure, you're able to run these remote scripts, and you can imagine how much flexibility you have across different securing and configuration use cases. All right, so we've connected, we've sort of configured, if you call this configuring. Now we're going to try to go for securing, right? And so here I want to showcase Defender for Cloud. How many of you folks are familiar with Defender for Cloud MD? Nice, almost everyone. So more folks than even Arc, which is great to hear. Defender is actually our biggest use case for Azure Arc, right? We view Arc as really being critical from a security perspective, right? Getting visibility across your estate. Most important use case for that is security, right? And it's interesting. We even have customers where they identify shadow IT through Arc, right? You can imagine you're running this group policy and you realize, oh, that's domain joined. And these servers are coming up from this other group. I think one of the most interesting experiences we found out, we had a subsidiary and they found out that, customer had a department running workloads in separate lab environment, for example, that was not under the purview of Defender previously. So it's a pretty robust capability there. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the AZ security module. Oops, here. What's going on? Here, we're going to import module az.security. And so this is the PowerShell module for Microsoft Defender for cloud capabilities. And so, like I mentioned, all your Arc servers are actually naturally factored into Defender for cloud if you have that enabled for your environment. So this is how Defender extends across off Azure environments for on-prem or multi-cloud. So for example, if we want to, go ahead and get your security assessment, we're going to try to run that. And so we'll do security assessment. You saw the security pricing come up. That's probably a whole session on its own to the pricing for Defender. We're not going to talk about that now. Here we're going to go ahead and let's just run this security assessment. And so it's going to run on the subscription I have in context. So on this Arc-enabled demo environment. Cool. It's just going to take a second there. And while that's loading, I'll go ahead and walk you through a little bit of some of the common kind of commands here. We have a lot of control capabilities, right? With with SQL assessment as well. You can get detailed security analytics. You can get your regulatory compliance controls, NIST, etc. Also your security alerting that's being detected as well. I'm just using this high-level assessment, but the other core capability we see a lot is customers using Secure Score, but hardening capabilities from Defender are also available for your Arc server, right? So adaptive application controls, baselines, etc. You can apply those for Arc servers just like you would a native Azure VM, again, because we have that machine configuration and we're also collecting your security logs through our monitoring capabilities there as well. So I'm going to go ahead, come here. Oof, invalid credentials. Okay, so it looks like I have to connect AZ account. Very interesting. Let me try this. Get AZ. Oops. AZ. Security. Secure score. Hopefully that works. Okay, so here we see our Azure Security Control Score coming up. And so I believe that because I didn't specify the sub, that secure compliance scan was running at a higher level. But here you can see what a secure score looks like. And similarly, we could do a compliance scan. So I think I'm going to pull that in here. So we can do a get AZ regulatory compliance scan. We can get the compliance control as well, or compliance standard over time. And so one common command is this one, the get AZ security compliance. So we can see how the compliance changed over time. So we're going to do AZ security compliance. Okay, so you can see how this assessment is changing over time, and we can see kind of like the compliance scores changing as well as the resources associated with my environment. So you can see a couple of days ago it was 100, so 120 resources, then coming down, and you can see the secure score as well being pulled in here. So you can see how this is quite useful, right? You can interact with Defender for Cloud and all of the automation that would typically be built in for your Azure native resources. Your Azure VMs are available for your Arc servers as well. And just to visualize this a little bit, if we go into Defender for Cloud, we're going to see all of that come in as well from a visualization perspective. If it loads today, it may load tomorrow, given what we're seeing. Yes. All right. So here we have, security posture. You have your regulatory compliance, workload protection, all of that. And your Arc servers are factored into that, just like you have your Azure native VMs. And again, when you really go in for a specific server resource, so I'll showcase one here, like Tailwind Server 4. Again, this is sitting outside of Azure. You have your detailed recommendations, you have your overall health alert, etc. So it's a very granular view you get on a per resource basis for your Arc server resources, just like your Azure VMs. And you would be able to point and click to actually fix this or automate. In your case, this is not a point and click audience. And you'd be able to actually do quick fix logic, just like it's like an Azure native resource, triggering a logic app or making it exempt. So that showcases really the security piece as well. So you saw we were able to connect, you're able to configure, and you're able to secure. So with that, we're going to wrap up the demo, but that just showcases what you can do with Azure Arc, right? In terms of all of the automation we bring in and how native of an experience it is, right? Where now, by remotely connecting through Shell, you don't just have visibility and line of sight into operating your Azure native VMs, you get that same line of sight and same set of capabilities for your non-Azure VMs as well. So what's on our roadmap? Well, first, we're going to start off with what we're prioritizing, right? You'll hear this again and again, and our number one priority is really security, fundamentals, and quality, right? That's above everything else, especially as we're thinking about, what we're doing, right? With all of these server management capabilities. And now this is a real paradigm shift, right? Going from now you're using cloud-based solutions that you have in Azure to manage your on-prem servers, right? And so security is the number one priority for us, and fundamentals and quality for our customers. The next kind of area is we have a lot coming up in terms of our sort of next-gen server management story, right? We think of ourselves as, from SCCM perspective, for client, you have Intune, For server, you have Arc from a server management perspective. And so we're investing heavily into update management from patching perspective, or our run command or VMApps capability coming up. So you have a lot of these new server management capabilities really focused on those core scenarios. And finally, Arc is part of the broader licensing and migration strategy. So we had over the last year extended security updates. How many folks are familiar with ESUs? Okay, good number. So if you're running Windows Server 2012, which went end of life last October, you can continue running that for up to 3 more years and get critical security patches. Typically, the way you did that was you went to volume licensing, you got your MAC key, you acquired that every single year for up to 3 years. What we have now is a flexible pay-as-you-go option through Arc, where if you connect to Arc, you can enroll in ESUs, and now you have a monthly pay-as-you-go ESU delivery mechanism with update management coming in included with that as well. And so that same flexibility we're bringing to other licensing options like Windows Server 2025 with Windows Server 2025 PayGo as well. So what are our current previews? A lot of things in current preview. So this is what's in preview now, and you can actually test out that we're taking to GA and enriching the capabilities for. We have our Azure Arc Gateway. There's a whole lot of endpoints you need to whitelist in order to connect to Arc, as you can imagine. We're reducing that substantially with the built-in sort of proxy option, and we're reducing the number of endpoints customers have to open up. We have an at-scale multi-cloud onboarding option where you can connect your AWS account at scale and onboard all of those EC2 instances or detected servers to Azure Arc. We have Windows Server 2012 extended security updates. And so we have our Arc option that just came out October of last year. A lot of customers did year 1 of the typical volume licensing option. They can go to Arc for year number 2. And that's a really good flexibility for our customers that want to start evaluating Arc. We have Windows Server hot patching, which we know a lot of customers are really excited for, coming up for 2025 and 2022 with current preview opportunity for that. Windows Server 2025 has its PayGo as well, and we're bringing in best practice assessment and remote diagnostics capabilities for Windows Server as well. The final preview is Run Command, and you just saw that live. So these are all of our active previews. So yes, you could actually try out all of these capabilities. It's not just like far out roadmap somewhere. No, these are capabilities that are currently in preview, obviously quality improvements to take those to general availability. What's a little bit further out? We have a lot of upcoming capabilities as well. So we have our integration with Azure Migrate, where you get assessment and business case. We also have at the bottom point and click migration, which is a little bit more challenging, right? But all of those sort of coming together of Arc as sort of a way for customers to start evaluating Migrate is a critical piece for us, right? A lot of customers are viewing Arc as sort of the road for their migration, which makes sense, right? We're helping customers get familiar with Azure, test it out. We're going to help with assessing migration, assessing the business case, and actually performing the migration as well. We can't have a session without talking about Azure Copilot, but yes, the Azure Copilot is bringing in Arc capabilities and factoring that in. But you can imagine how robust that is, right? If you're a SOC, you can use the Azure Copilot and you can say, what are my Defender for Cloud incidents and alerts? And it's going to surface those for your on-prem resources or your multi-cloud ones. The other pieces we want to highlight are auto agent upgrade and safe deployment for our extensions. So we're bringing an auto agent upgrade for that connected machine agent based off customer request. The next set we wanted to just touch on is the 3P app deployment for software distribution piece. We know this is top of mind for a lot of customers, natively available with VM apps, virtual machine apps for Azure VMs, where you can upload to Azure Compute Gallery and then deploy your 3P apps to your Arc servers, and again across Windows and Linux, as well as the 3P app management with Update Manager, which is typically used for OS patching today. And the final one here is our integration with backup and disaster recovery with Azure Site Recovery. So we have a very robust upcoming roadmap, and these are a little bit further out. but for the current preview opportunities, we have a lot there as well. So you can see there's just incredible amount of development and velocity with the Arc server investment, as we're really positioning this for the future for server management and more closely tying together with Windows Server, especially with Windows Server 2025. So with that, we wanted to give about 10 minutes, and I think right on time, it's 35 for Q&A. And so I wanted to thank you again for listening in. I also wanted to, again, provide that QR code. So maybe you weren't convinced at first for the monthly newsletter, you're going to just spam it. Maybe now you're going to not spam that email. But this is where you can sign up for that monthly newsletter and our monthly community call. And actually, our community call for this month is going to be today. So after the conference over, I'll be hosting the community call from the hotel. With that, thank you again. This is my email if you have any questions related to Azure Arc. Our product group is really excited for feedback. We also engage heavily. We have a hybrid MVP community, and I think we have some hybrid MVPs here. So we love engaging with our community as well and speaking with them. So with that, thank you so much for listening, and excited for any Q&A you have. And please pull me aside if you have any Arc-related questions during the last day of the conference. Thanks. Yep.
With the run command, I just have two questions.
Yeah.
Were you able to get the output from that command in the result? Or just I had brief look and I couldn't see it.
Yes. You're able to get the output, and you can also configure where you want to put the output. So if it's like lengthy, we have customers that'll upload to like blob storage. So one key scenario is we have diagnostics and support issues, right? Often where you want to get like extension logs, and so you could, for example, say, why are there extension issues? You can upload the extension logs from that run command into your blob storage, for example, and then remotely kind of troubleshoot that. Yep. Great question. Yep.
And the other question with it is it possible to configure the shell, or like how does it choose what the default shell to use when running the command?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about the default shell. I'm not sure that's a parameter. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Yeah. It might be in our documentation. So yeah. Cool. Nice. Other questions? All right. Going once, going twice. No more questions. All right. Well, if you do have questions, you can always pull me aside. Hopefully this was an informative session, and thank you all for tuning in. I know this is first session of the morning, nice and early. So I appreciate you all, and hopefully, if not, you were able to catch some rest during the session. Awesome.